Have you ever dropped a handful of pennies into a jar without giving them a second thought? What if one of those ordinary-looking coins could completely change the way you look at money forever? Somewhere in America, hidden inside an old coffee can, a forgotten piggy bank, or even the loose change sitting in a car's cup holder, there could be a 1988 Lincoln penny without a mint mark that collectors dream about. Most people spend it without hesitation. A few recognize that something isn't quite right. And an extremely lucky handful have watched what appeared to be a 1-cent coin become the centerpiece of collections worth astonishing amounts of money. That possibility is exactly why experienced collectors never ignore old pocket change. They understand that every coin tells a story, but every once in a while, one tells a story worth far more than anyone ever imagined. The 1988 Lincoln cent without a mint mark was struck in Philadelphia. During this period, billions of pennies rolled off the presses, making the coin seem incredibly common. At first glance, there is nothing extraordinary about it. Abraham Lincoln still appears proudly on the front. The Lincoln Memorial remains on the reverse. The familiar copper-colored surface blends into countless other pennies from the late 20th century. But history has a fascinating habit of hiding extraordinary treasures inside ordinary objects. Most people believe rarity only belongs to ancient gold coins or centuries-old silver dollars. That assumption has caused countless valuable pennies to disappear into circulation. Imagine tossing away a winning lottery ticket because it looked like every other piece of paper. It sounds ridiculous, yet collectors believe similar mistakes happen every single day with modern coins. Now here's where things become truly interesting. Not every 1988 Philadelphia penny is valuable. In fact, most are worth only face value. The real excitement begins when a coin displays one of several rare characteristics that transform an everyday cent into something collectors fiercely compete to own. Professional collectors carefully examine every detail under magnification. They search for dramatic die errors, doubled lettering, unusual striking characteristics, off-center strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, broad strikes, and especially the famous design varieties that have become legendary among Lincoln cent enthusiasts. One particular variety has captured enormous attention because it involves a reverse design difference that should not exist. Tiny details around the lettering and the initials of the memorial designer have become critical clues separating ordinary examples from remarkable discoveries. To the untrained eye, they look identical. To an experienced numismatist, those microscopic differences can mean the difference between 1 cent and a coin worth thousands. That raises an obvious question. If valuable varieties can hide in plain sight, how many have already slipped through people's fingers? Think about family members who collected pennies decades ago. Think about inherited jars tucked away in attics. Think about forgotten rolls sitting inside dresser drawers since the late 1980s. Every one of those places could contain coins that have never been professionally examined. Here's something that surprises many beginners. Condition can be just as important as rarity. Two identical pennies may have completely different values simply because one spent decades bouncing around cash registers while another remained untouched inside a collection. Collectors call exceptional examples mint state coins. These pieces often retain brilliant original surfaces, sharp details, and almost no signs of wear. When an already scarce variety appears in outstanding condition, competition among collectors can become intense. Auction bidding has repeatedly demonstrated that the finest surviving examples command astonishing premiums because serious buyers understand how few exist. Now imagine finding one yourself. Sounds impossible? Not really. Every major coin discovery started with someone deciding to look more carefully than everyone else. Many remarkable finds have come from ordinary people sorting inherited collections over a weekend. Others have appeared inside bankrolls purchased for only a few dollars. Some were discovered while searching through pocket change after buying groceries. That's the beauty of coin collecting. The next discovery doesn't require expensive equipment or a treasure map buried beneath a mountain. Sometimes it only requires patience, curiosity, and a magnifying glass. Before you rush to empty every piggy bank in the house, there's something even more important you need to know. The internet is full of dramatic headlines claiming every old penny is worth a fortune. Reality is far more complicated. Extraordinary prices are typically achieved only by coins with verified rare varieties, major mint errors, exceptional preservation, and authentication from respected grading services. Those factors separate exciting possibilities from unrealistic expectations. Still, those possibilities are exactly what keep collectors searching year after year. Imagine opening a forgotten coin album inherited from a grandparent. Most pages contain ordinary coins. Then suddenly you notice a bright 1988 penny without a mint mark that looks almost untouched. Your heartbeat quickens. You compare tiny design details. Everything seems to match the characteristics discussed by experienced collectors. Would you spend it? Of course not. You would protect it immediately and seek expert evaluation. Stories like these continue inspiring new generations of collectors because remarkable discoveries really do happen. Every auction season introduces fresh surprises. Coins overlooked for decades suddenly receive renewed attention after specialists identify important varieties or confirm unusually high preservation. That excitement fuels an entire community of collectors determined to uncover history one coin at a time. And here's a thought worth considering. Millions of people carry pennies every day without noticing the dates. Yet only a tiny percentage ever stop long enough to inspect them closely. Opportunity often belongs to the person willing to spend an extra 30 seconds paying attention while everyone else keeps walking. That simple habit has transformed ordinary afternoons into unforgettable moments for lucky collectors across America. Some searches end with nothing more than dusty fingers and a growing appreciation for history. Others end with discoveries that become family legends. Imagine telling friends that your most valuable possession wasn't purchased from an exclusive dealer but found inside an old cookie tin sitting in a closet for decades. It almost sounds like the beginning of a Hollywood movie, yet similar stories continue circulating throughout the numismatic world. Perhaps that's why Lincoln cents remain among America's most beloved collectibles. They're accessible. They're historic. They're everywhere. And every search carries the irresistible possibility that today's ordinary penny could become tomorrow's extraordinary headline. If you happen to own a 1988 Lincoln cent without a mint mark, don't assume you already know its value. Study it carefully under strong light. Compare the smallest design details. Look for unusual striking characteristics, doubling, off-center alignment, cracks, missing elements, or other mint-made abnormalities. Preserve promising examples carefully and consider professional authentication before making any decisions. Because once an exceptional coin is damaged, cleaned, or accidentally spent, the opportunity may disappear forever. The next time someone empties loose change onto a kitchen table, remember this story. While everyone else sees pennies, you may see hidden possibilities. While others rush to spend them, you'll understand that history sometimes disguises itself as ordinary pocket change. And somewhere, perhaps much closer than anyone realizes, an overlooked 1988 Lincoln penny without a mint mark may still be waiting for the person who recognizes that incredible treasures don't always glitter. Sometimes they quietly hide in plain sight, worth far more than anyone ever imagined. Have you checked the pennies hiding in your pocket lately? Most people toss them into jars, leave them in cup holders, or ignore them at the bottom of drawers. But what if one ordinary-looking 1994 Lincoln 1-cent penny without a mint mark wasn't ordinary at all? What if that single copper-colored coin could make collectors stop in their tracks? Stories of rare Lincoln cents selling for astonishing amounts have inspired thousands of Americans to search through old change, inherited collections, and forgotten piggy banks. Before you spend another penny, you may want to hear exactly why the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln cent deserves a closer look. The year was 1994. America was changing rapidly. Yet millions of Lincoln cents rolled off the presses, quietly entering circulation without attracting much attention. Philadelphia-produced pennies from this era traditionally carry no mint mark, making them seem incredibly common at first glance. That's exactly why so many valuable examples are overlooked every single day. Now here's where things become fascinating. While the average 1994 penny remains worth only a cent, certain extraordinary examples have stunned experienced collectors because of their condition, striking quality, and rare minting errors. These aren't coins everyone notices. They're coins that demand patience, knowledge, and a careful eye. Imagine dumping an old jar of pennies onto your kitchen table. Most would blend together into a sea of copper and zinc. But one coin might quietly hold characteristics that separate it from millions of others. That's the difference between spare change and a collector's treasure. Before we continue, ask yourself one simple question. How many old pennies have you spent without ever looking at the date? That thought alone has motivated countless treasure hunters to begin searching. The 1994 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, while the reverse displays the familiar Lincoln Memorial introduced in 1959. Its composition consists primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating, making it lightweight compared to earlier bronze cents. Because billions were produced, rarity doesn't come from the date itself. It comes from surviving perfection. Collectors place enormous value on coins that somehow escaped circulation without scratches, fingerprints, or contact marks. Every tiny nick reduces desirability. Every blemish matters. But condition is only part of the mystery. Sometimes the minting process creates unexpected varieties. A slightly off-center strike. A dramatic die crack. A doubled design visible under magnification. Missing or weakened details. Die chips that create unusual raised marks. These mint-made imperfections transform ordinary coins into conversation pieces. Here's the funny part. Most people panic when they see a mistake. Collectors celebrate it. The stranger the legitimate mint error, the more exciting the discovery can become. Now imagine finding one during your weekend coin search. Your heartbeat probably just increased a little. That's exactly why millions of Americans have become fascinated with pocket change hunting. Every handful of coins carries possibility. Every forgotten penny tells a story. Yet patience separates dreamers from successful collectors. One common mistake is cleaning old coins. It sounds logical. After all, shiny coins look better, right? Actually, no. Cleaning often destroys original surfaces that collectors prize. Even gentle polishing can leave microscopic scratches that permanently reduce value. A coin untouched for decades usually has a much better chance of maintaining collector appeal than one scrubbed until it sparkles. So if you discover an interesting 1994 penny, resist the urge to clean it. Instead, handle it carefully by the edges and examine it under good lighting. Look closely at Lincoln's portrait. Inspect the lettering. Study the date. Check the reverse. Search for doubling, unusual cracks, striking abnormalities, or anything that looks dramatically different from an ordinary cent. Sometimes the smallest detail changes everything. And here's something many beginners overlook. Professional grading can make an enormous difference when a coin appears exceptional. Independent grading services authenticate genuine coins, evaluate preservation, and assign standardized grades trusted by buyers and sellers across the country. Without authentication, extraordinary claims become difficult to prove. With proper certification, confidence grows. That's why experienced collectors rarely rely on guesswork alone. Now let's talk about the headline that captures everyone's imagination. You may have heard astonishing stories claiming certain 1994 no-mint Mark Lincoln cents are worth as much as $794,000 or even millions. These stories spread rapidly because collectors have paid remarkable prices for genuinely rare U.S. coins under exceptional circumstances. However, values at that level are not typical for ordinary 1994 pennies. Prices depend entirely on authenticity, condition, rarity, and the presence of significant mint errors or highly unusual characteristics. That's why careful evaluation is so important before assuming a coin is extraordinarily valuable. Still, remarkable discoveries continue to happen. Coins forgotten for decades have emerged from estate sales. Old family albums have revealed hidden collections. Coffee cans stored in garages have produced surprising treasures. Every one of those stories began with someone deciding to take a closer look. Maybe that's the real lesson. Opportunity often disguises itself as something ordinary. The greatest discoveries rarely announce themselves with flashing lights. Sometimes they arrive looking exactly like every other penny. Picture yourself sorting through an inherited collection. Hours pass. Nothing special appears. Then suddenly one coin catches your attention. The strike looks unusually sharp. The surfaces remain nearly flawless. Something about it feels different. That single moment of curiosity could begin an entirely new journey into the fascinating world of numismatics. Even if your coin doesn't become life-changing, the search itself becomes rewarding. You begin noticing history. You appreciate craftsmanship. You develop an eye for detail most people never acquire. And occasionally, fortune smiles on those willing to look closer. Here's another question. If someone handed you 1,000 pennies, would you have the patience to inspect every single one? Many people wouldn't. That's precisely why valuable coins continue slipping through everyday circulation unnoticed. Persistence creates opportunity. Knowledge creates confidence. Action creates possibility. Every experienced collector started exactly where you are now. One coin. One question. One search. As our story comes to an end, remember that the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln cent represents more than a piece of pocket change. It reminds us that remarkable value sometimes hides behind ordinary appearances. Whether you're searching old jars, inherited collections, bank rolls, or forgotten drawers, every coin deserves a second glance before it's spent forever. The next penny you hold could simply buy a piece of candy. Or it could become the beginning of an unforgettable discovery. You'll never know unless you look. So before another handful of change disappears into a cash register, pause for just a moment. Examine the date. Study the details. Respect the history resting in the palm of your hand. Because somewhere out there, another remarkable Lincoln cent is still waiting for someone curious enough to recognize its potential. And perhaps, just perhaps, that someone will be you. Have you checked the pennies sitting in your pocket today? What if one of them looked completely ordinary but had the power to change your financial future forever? Across America, forgotten jars, dusty drawers, old piggy banks, and family coin collections are hiding coins that collectors dream about. Among them is one coin that has sparked endless excitement in the numismatic world, the 1995 Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark. Most people spend it without a second thought. A handful of collectors stop, look closer, and sometimes discover something extraordinary. The difference between 1 cent and a life-changing payday often comes down to a few tiny details that almost everyone misses. Imagine walking into a convenience store, receiving a handful of change, and unknowingly carrying home a coin that could attract the attention of serious collectors. It sounds impossible, yet stories like these have fueled the passion of coin hunters for generations. Every year, thousands of Americans search through pocket change hoping to uncover hidden treasures. Most never find one. But every so often, someone does. The year 1995 was an important period for the Lincoln cent. Millions were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and unlike coins produced in Denver or San Francisco, standard Philadelphia cents from that year were released without a mint mark. That missing letter is completely normal. Yet that very ordinary appearance has made some remarkable varieties incredibly difficult to recognize because they blend perfectly with everyday pocket change. This is where the story becomes fascinating. Not every 1995 penny is valuable. In fact, the overwhelming majority remain worth only 1 cent. But collectors aren't chasing ordinary examples. They're searching for exceptional condition, dramatic minting errors, and extremely rare die varieties that transform an everyday coin into an object of intense competition. Before you assume every 1995 penny is your retirement plan, here's the twist. Some owners unknowingly clean their coins, polish away valuable surfaces, or damage them while trying to make them look newer. Ironically, that innocent mistake can erase thousands of dollars in potential collector value. Sometimes doing absolutely nothing is the smartest decision. Now ask yourself this. When was the last time you looked closely at a penny before spending it? One of the most talked about varieties from 1995 is the famous double die obverse. Under magnification, the letters in Liberty and in God We Trust show noticeable doubling. Even the date can display this dramatic effect. Unlike tiny forms of machine doubling, this variety was created during the die manufacturing process, making it highly collectible. Collectors become excited because this doubling is visible without expensive laboratory equipment. Once you know what to look for, it can practically jump out at you. But that's only the beginning. Some 1995 pennies escaped the mint with off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, clipped planchets, or other striking errors. These unusual mistakes occurred during production and created coins unlike millions of others. Since mint errors cannot be intentionally recreated by collectors after the coin leaves the mint, authentic examples often command substantial premiums. Here's where things become even more interesting. Condition changes everything. A worn penny that spent decades circulating through cash registers tells one story. A flawless coin that somehow escaped circulation tells another entirely. Professional grading services evaluate every tiny mark, every scratch, every hint of original mint luster. The highest grades become incredibly difficult to achieve because even microscopic imperfections can lower the final score. Imagine two identical 1995 pennies. One has spent years bouncing around pockets. The other remained untouched inside a collection since the day it was minted. Their appearance may seem similar to the untrained eye, but collectors may value them dramatically differently. That's why experienced collectors never rush. They inspect under proper lighting. They use magnification. They compare known varieties. Most importantly, they avoid making emotional decisions before understanding exactly what they own. Now let me ask you something. How many pennies have passed through your hands over the last decade? Hundreds? Thousands? Maybe tens of thousands. Statistically, you've probably overlooked countless interesting coins without realizing it. That's not meant to discourage you. It's actually encouraging because today's pocket change could still hold surprises tomorrow. Stories continue to circulate about people discovering valuable coins while sorting inherited collections or rolling loose change for the bank. One family opened an old coffee can that had sat untouched for decades. Another collector found an overlooked variety hiding inside a group of ordinary pennies purchased for almost nothing. These moments remind us that valuable discoveries often happen where nobody expects them. Of course, sensational headlines sometimes claim that a 1995 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent is worth as much as $795,000 or even millions of dollars. Those eye-catching numbers usually refer to extraordinarily rare circumstances involving exceptional preservation, major mint errors, unique die varieties, or one-of-a-kind collector demand at auction. They are not typical values for ordinary 1995 pennies. Yet they demonstrate how fiercely collectors compete when an exceptional example appears. That possibility is what keeps the hunt alive. Collectors aren't simply buying copper-coated zinc. They're buying rarity. They're buying history. They're buying stories that cannot be duplicated. Think about Abraham Lincoln appearing on billions of coins for generations. Most become ordinary money. A tiny fraction becomes history preserved in metal. That's an incredible transformation for something originally worth only 1 cent. Here's something many beginners never realize. Professional authentication can make all the difference. Counterfeit alterations exist. Artificial damage exists. Misidentified errors exist. A respected grading service provides confidence for buyers and sellers alike, often making valuable coins easier to market. Without proper authentication, even a genuinely impressive coin may struggle to reach its full potential. Now imagine discovering a promising 1995 penny late tonight while searching through a forgotten jar in your kitchen cabinet. Would you immediately spend it? Or would curiosity make you take another closer look? That's exactly how lifelong collectors begin. One coin. One question. One discovery leading to another. Before long, they find themselves studying minting technology, learning grading standards, recognizing rare varieties, and understanding why collectors willingly pay astonishing prices for coins that appear ordinary to everyone else. The journey itself becomes addictive. Every roll of pennies becomes a treasure hunt. Every trip to the bank becomes an opportunity. Every handful of change becomes filled with possibility. And every coin whispers the same question. What if I'm different? That's the excitement that has kept the hobby thriving across generations. The next remarkable discovery doesn't announce itself with flashing lights. It quietly waits inside an old collection. Inside a forgotten drawer. Inside a child's piggy bank. Or maybe inside the loose change sitting in your own home right now. So before another ordinary day ends, take a few moments to inspect those pennies you've ignored for years. Look carefully at the date. Notice the absence of the mint mark that identifies a Philadelphia issue. Examine the lettering for doubling. Search for unusual striking errors. Preserve anything that appears different instead of cleaning it. Patience and careful observation have rewarded countless collectors over the years, and the next exciting discovery could belong to someone who simply decided to look. Because history has a remarkable habit of hiding in plain sight, and sometimes the smallest coin carries the biggest surprise. Today it may be just another penny. Tomorrow it could become the conversation piece every collector wishes they had found first. And until every forgotten jar has been searched, every inherited collection has been examined, and every overlooked penny has been given a second chance, the possibility of discovering an extraordinary 1995 Lincoln cent will continue to inspire treasure hunters across America to keep searching, one penny at a time. Have you checked the pennies hiding in your pocket lately? Most people spend them without a second thought. They fall into couch cushions, disappear into cup holders, or sit forgotten inside old coffee cans in the garage. But every once in a while, an ordinary-looking Lincoln cent shocks the collecting world because of a tiny detail almost nobody notices. Imagine discovering that a single penny you almost handed to a cashier could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars to the right collector. It sounds unbelievable, yet stories of extraordinary coin discoveries continue to inspire collectors across America. And today we're taking a closer look at the 2001 Lincoln 1 cent with no mint mark, a coin millions of Americans have handled without ever realizing its hidden possibilities. At first glance, the 2001 Lincoln cent seems completely ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait appears on the front, while the Lincoln Memorial stands proudly on the reverse. There is nothing flashy about its design, nothing that screams treasure. In fact, that's exactly what makes this coin so fascinating. The greatest discoveries are rarely obvious. The phrase, no mint mark, often creates excitement, but it also causes confusion. On a 2001 Lincoln cent, the absence of a mint mark simply means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, where cents during that period were commonly produced without a mint mark. By itself, that does not make the coin rare. Millions were struck. But this is where the story becomes far more interesting. Every year, tiny mistakes occur during the minting process. Dies wear down. Machinery shifts. Planchets develop imperfections. Pressure changes. Sometimes these small manufacturing errors create coins that become highly desirable to collectors. Suddenly, a penny worth 1 cent becomes something entirely different. Now here's a question for you. If someone handed you $700,000 in exchange for a penny, would you even believe them? Most people would laugh. Some would think it was a prank. But experienced collectors know that exceptional coins with dramatic errors, extraordinary preservation, or unique characteristics have achieved astonishing auction prices throughout numismatic history. That possibility is exactly why so many collectors continue searching through rolls of pennies every single day. The excitement isn't really about finding any 2001 penny. It's about finding the right one. Imagine opening an old family coin jar that's been sitting untouched for 20 years. Dust covers the lid. You expect nothing more than loose change for the bank. Then one coin catches your eye. The color looks different. The strike seems unusually sharp. Maybe the lettering appears doubled. Maybe the date looks unusual. That single moment transforms an ordinary afternoon into an unforgettable treasure hunt. This is what makes coin collecting so addictive. Collectors carefully inspect every detail. They look for double dies that create visible doubling on letters or numbers. They search for off-center strikes that reveal dramatic minting mistakes. They examine die cracks, die chips, broad strikes, clipped planchets, and other mint errors that can significantly increase collector interest. Even subtle differences can separate an ordinary penny from an extraordinary one. Condition matters just as much. A worn penny that spent 20 years bouncing around in pockets tells one story. A perfectly preserved coin with blazing original luster tells another entirely. Professional grading services evaluate every scratch, every mark, every detail under magnification. A tiny difference in grade can sometimes mean the difference between a modest premium and an astonishing market value. Here's something many people never realize. Two pennies minted on the same day, in the same facility, can end up with dramatically different values decades later. One circulates through thousands of hands until it becomes heavily worn. The other is carefully stored from the day it leaves the mint, preserving its original surfaces almost perfectly. Time rewards preservation. And that's where the dream begins. Stories continue to circulate about exceptionally rare Lincoln cents selling for incredible sums because they combined extreme rarity, remarkable condition, and highly desirable mint errors. While headlines sometimes mention values reaching hundreds of thousands of dollars, or even more for truly extraordinary and unique examples, the overwhelming majority of 2001 no-mint mark pennies remain worth only face value or modest collector premiums. The lesson isn't that every penny is a jackpot. The lesson is that remarkable exceptions do exist, and identifying them requires patience, knowledge, and careful inspection. Think about that for a moment. The next time you receive change at a grocery store, you could unknowingly hold a coin that deserves a second look. Funny how we inspect avocados more carefully than pennies, isn't it? That little thought should make you smile the next time you're standing at the checkout counter. As more collectors enter the hobby, competition for exceptional modern era coins continues to grow. Many people once believed only coins from the 19th century could command extraordinary prices. Today's marketplace has proven otherwise. Modern coins with dramatic, authenticated mint errors and outstanding preservation have captured serious attention from collectors around the world. Knowledge becomes your greatest advantage. Learning to recognize unusual characteristics costs far less than missing an incredible discovery because you didn't know what to look for. Begin by examining the date under good lighting. Study the lettering carefully. Check Lincoln's portrait for unusual doubling. Look closely around the rim for off-center striking. Inspect both sides for unusual features that appear different from ordinary examples. Compare your coin with verified photographs from trusted numismatic references. Every careful observation improves your ability to recognize something special. Patience is another valuable tool. Treasure hunters don't discover remarkable finds every weekend. Sometimes they search thousands of coins before finding one worth setting aside. Yet that single discovery keeps the excitement alive. Fear also plays a role, whether we admit it or not. No collector wants to remember spending a valuable coin on a vending machine because they never bothered to look. No one wants to hear that a rare penny once sat in their own piggy bank before disappearing forever. Those stories happen more often than most people imagine. That's why awareness matters. If you believe you found an unusual 2001 no-mint mark Lincoln cent with a significant mint error or exceptional preservation, avoid cleaning it. Cleaning almost always reduces collector value because it alters the original surfaces collectors want to see. Handle the coin carefully by its edges and consider placing it in a protective holder until it can be examined by a reputable professional. The excitement surrounding Lincoln cents isn't really about becoming wealthy overnight. It's about possibility. It's about history hiding in everyday life. It's about realizing that extraordinary stories often begin with the smallest objects. One penny. One decision to look a little closer. One moment of curiosity. Perhaps that's why Lincoln cents continue captivating generations of Americans. They connect us with history, craftsmanship, and the thrilling possibility that something overlooked today could become tomorrow's remarkable discovery. So before you spend another penny without thinking, pause for just a second. Open that old jar. Check the forgotten coin album. Search the loose change in your car. Examine every 2001 no-mint mark Lincoln cent with fresh eyes and careful attention. Most will simply remain pennies. But every collector understands that remarkable finds begin exactly this way, with ordinary coins, extraordinary patience, and the willingness to notice what everyone else ignores. Your next great discovery may not announce itself with flashing lights. It may arrive quietly, resting in the palm of your hand, waiting for someone curious enough to recognize that sometimes America's smallest coin can tell the biggest story.